Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Anthony and Stephanie. How are you? Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026.
We haven't seen you.
Yeah, I've been the world traveler. I've been to California. I'm on my way right now to this little town called Las Vegas. I believe it's in Alaska.
Okay, California and Las Vegas is not the world traveler. Those don't equate.
I mean, I don't know. You should see some of the people in California. Stephanie, how are you? It's good to see you. You got any news or stories for us this morning?
Yeah. I was just thinking about I was going through all this stuff because we just moved, and I was going through pictures and all that sort of thing. And I saw this picture of my son when he was super little, and he was like obsessed with banana splits. You know what a banana split is, right? Like a little ice cream dessert. And he was
I know what a banana split is.
Yeah, he was so, I thought maybe it was a Canadian thing, but anyway, he was so obsessed with them, and he like wanted them to have them every freaking day. And when he got old enough to go to school, we were like, do we send him to regular school or do we send him to Sunday school?
That was a exceptionally long setup for a very terrible joke. That was.
I don't know that any of the dad jokes are not very terrible.
I'll throw mine out there. Did you hear about the fact that the Invisible Man married the Invisible Woman?
No.
Their kids weren't much to look at either.
Oh, Jesus.
I didn't come with a dad joke. I came with something to trumps all dad jokes. I need to work on my image, so I brought a puppy.
Holy cow. I thought you were going to hold up a stuffed puppy.
Oh,
Isn't he cute?
Wow.
Christmas present to the daughters.
For those of you listening, you're going to want to go
and watch
for the video portion of just this portion of the episode. Then you can turn it off, go back to audio. Wow.
This is Duke.
That is pretty darn cute, Anthony. Our demographics just went up dramatically.
Hold him up to the camera again. I want to see his face.
You want to see his face again? Say hi, Duke.
That is pretty awesome, Anthony. Well done. Well done. I think that's pretty amazing.
Buddies.
Well, Anthony and Stephanie, hard to follow a puppy.
Yeah, I'm done.
I think we can say that's it for today's episode.
Thank you. Thanks for listening, everyone.
We're going to be the all puppy channel from now on.
We've done a study in our demographics, and everybody now likes puppies. Anthony, Stephanie, what if the skills that made you successful are now holding your company back? Literally the story of my life. Rand Fishkin built Moz to 150 employees before admitting he had become the company's biggest bottleneck. His mistake wasn't incompetence. He kept doing the job that worked at 15 people. Today on How to Founder, we're going to be talking about evolving your role as a CEO through the different growth stages. I'm your host, Chris Franks. With me, Anthony Franco, Stephanie Hayes, calling from the great white north of Canada. How cold is it up there, Stephanie?
It's not that cold. We actually don't get that cold here. It's very temperate. We're right on the ocean. It's like minus 52 or something. Like it's not bad.
It's totally fine. Yeah. Also, I'm assuming that's some other like centigrade or something, some other scale that we have no idea how to actually. All right. So let's get into this topic. This is very poignant. It's poignant for me where I am right now. It's poignant for so many founders. I wanted to start by asking you to tell your stories about times when you've struggled with this moment, when you realize what got you to a particular level within your company is not the thing that's going to get you to the next level. I'll start with Anthony. Go.
Oh, I was hoping you'd start with Steph. I've never been prepared for the next level of my of company growth. Like you always kind of hit, and it's not all of a sudden you wake up one morning and go, oh crap, I'm woefully unprepared. It's you graduate into it. Once you go, I always say once you go from 10 to 20 employees, there's a big shift in just in how you communicate. You can't take the entire company out to lunch. You can't walk around. The ability to just have tribal knowledge permeate through the company is gone. Then when you shift from when we shifted from going from just a small leadership team to having middle management, that's a big shift. That's for me, that's an ick shift. I didn't like that stage of the company at all. And then you start to become an quote unquote enterprise when you get into hundreds of employees. And I sucked. I could do the job all the way through that point. Once you get to enterprise, it's a whole different role. I did not do it well.
Stephanie, what about you? What was your story?
So, full transparency, this was the topic that I chose because it happens to be the work that I do.
This is a shill episode for Stephanie's.
Oh my god!
We were tricked.
So I've got lots of stories. Is my point. Around
we wouldn't have taken the puppy out if we would have known we were just trying to sell you. Because
emotional, damn it.
Well, really, it's okay. So it's less about that, but it's more that there's so many stories that of these CEOs. Like, I've just watched a new program, just because when I was working with all these different CEOs, I was noticing this over and over again, that they're not growing because they're embedded in the business still, doing all of the doing work, like doing all of the stuff that they feel is contributing, but is actually holding the business back. Like what the business needs from them now is very different than what it needed from them when they were like 3 people just starting up, right? And so that, I think that's a really, really significant roadblock to a lot of CEOs that are trying to make their business grow. It's them that they're still stuck doing what they identified with when they first started the business. And now the business needs them to be something else. And they also have gotten to a point where they can now step into the work that's really powerful for them, as opposed to, early in the days where you'd kind of do everything and you have to sell and you have to do this and you have to do that. And as they grow, as the business grows, the business needs them to do something different, but they need themselves to do something different too.
It's such a interesting point. I think that one of the rules of thumb that I've always heard is that every time your team doubles in size, you have to be a different person as a leader. You have to be a different CEO at that stage. Have you guys heard that sort of rule of thumb before?
I mean, I think that's true, but I also would never suggest that your evolution needs to be because of your team size. I think it's I've seen people run really lean businesses for a long time, but still they need to evolve their role because the business evolves and their processes evolve and things get, stable and the team learns and that sort of thing. And it's when they hit a growth ceiling, I think, that the business needs them to evolve as well.
You're the bottleneck, right? I want to caveat this entire conversation. Maybe growth isn't the right thing for you to do.
Totally true.
Right.
Totally true.
So if you have to decide, all right, we're going to make this other hire. We want to navigate into this space. It's like, do you really, are you running a company that, and I know a lot of CEOs that are very self-aware of this. It's like, why don't you could be like 2 or 3 times the size. And they're like, I don't want to be.
Yeah.
Like I'm comfortable, and I, in my head, I don't get it. I'm like, what? I don't understand that. But that's because I'm broken, not them, right? That probably is the more healthy mindset than this mindset of wanting to continually push yourself and grow. Steph, you probably have a lot more insight on that piece of it.
Well, I think so the work that I do is all around exits, right? Whether it's this piece of it, but to me, this is a part of an exit. This is an operational exit. This could be an exit from your original role. Like there's all these exits we do in the lifespan with our business. And I think the mistake a lot of founders make is thinking that they have to follow this sort of textbook path of being the one at the helm, right? And one of the big questions we ask right off the bat is, do you want to be the one that takes this business, into the stratosphere? What is it that you want from your business? And I think a lot of people don't ask that question. And there are lots of people who are like, you know what, I have a whole contingent of people in my audience who are like, that kind of growth is just not what I'm after. Like, I really actually enjoy my business at this level, at this state. And that's where we want, but maybe we want to make things better, or we want to try new things or whatever. But I'm good. Like I don't have the desire to run a $1 trillion company. Like that's not interesting to me at all. So I think we have to acknowledge what a CEO actually wants, and then ask the question, is that good for the business, or do you need to exit, right? Do you need to make an operational exit? Do you need to exit the business altogether and let it keep growing? Or do you need to keep it where it is, and you can make because there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I want the $10 million business, but actually they don't. Like, they would hate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They really don't. What they want is a more profitable business. So that's the work for them to do. But regardless, their role in the business has to be assessed to figure out how they can best contribute to whatever that vision is for their company, right?
I think what you've hit on is one of the really important points, and I think it's something that we miss as founders a lot of the time, is there are two roles that you serve on as a founder. Typically, you're a founder and a CEO. And being a founder and an owner of a company is different than being a manager of a company. We have corporate governance around this concept that you have to elect a manager of a company. It's the first thing you do with an operating agreement. And so the idea there is a role to be played as an owner of the company that's not necessarily the operator of the company. Now, for the vast majority of us, we go into this work because we love some aspect of the work and we love practicing that work. And so let's talk about these phases, because I think this first phase is you're just a practitioner, right? You're doing the thing. Let's say you're a carpenter and you want to build cabinets. You're building cabinets because you enjoy that, and you might even have an employee or two that are helping you along that path. There's a point in time when you get pulled away from and stop practicing that thing that brought you joy, that made you start the company the first time. I think it's a pretty common journey. Was that y'all's experience?
Yeah, I think this is a distinction I don't think I've ever mentally made, Chris, and that's the distinction between an operator and an owner. It's an interesting distinction. I've just never done that. Steph, have you? I'm a little lost here on this distinction. It makes sense, but I don't know how that would change my day to day, or should it?
I think it depends on your business, right? So, I've seen people who have really built this sort of very operational business, and one of the biggest challenges I see, or the trends that I see, or the habits that I see from owners who have started a business because they did something well, is that that's their identity, and that's where they stay. And when things get uncomfortable, they go back to the operational side of the business. And, I'm going to change my programs, or I'm going to but really the adjustments they need to make are over here in selling and visibility and business development, or whatever it might be. And so there are some who are really visionary and really comfortable just being in that visionary place. And that's an owner, right? Like that's an owner who can see the machine that they want to build. And an operator is embedded and entrenched in the actual operations of the business. Now you can be both, but once you hit some growth patterns and once you start to evolve as a business, hopefully you are, that distinction between owner and operator, I think, is actually really important.
Yeah, but there's also a difference between visionary leader and owner too, right? So I think this distinction that Chris alluded to is there is a role for a visionary in a company, and the visionary doesn't necessarily have to be the owner. And there's I mean, this is classic EOS, right? Visionary and operator. But there is something unique about the ownership piece, that I don't think I haven't thought through at that level. The difference essentially is it comes down to you're responsible for payroll, right? Isn't that the distinction? Like you are making a promise to make payroll as an owner. And you're bearing the risk of the success or failure of that company beyond losing your job.
Well, I don't know if that's entirely true. Like, I think so I am a founder turned operator. So my job, I was hired as the CEO. I was not the founder, right, even though I was the first employee. And yes, I have equity in the company. So there's alignment, but I don't think it's any different than a lot of the startups I've worked in the fact I go out and raise capital and there's people that I answer to. It's like,
but there's a different mindset. So I think you're also
so. Like I approach this
cognitively. I think you have bias here because you've been so you make a great CEO for this company because you've been operating under the pressure of the owner. So you're coming in with that bias. You're coming in with this like unchangeable thing about your personality and DNA because you have founded and as the founder operated so many multiple companies. I think
that's just the normal thing for me as being a founder turned operator. I've got skills.
Yes.
I understand how to do things in early stage companies and people that would operate mid to big size companies. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine, a really successful guy. He works in medical, but like in big hospital chains. And I said, the primary difference between me and you is that you never have to worry about payroll. He's like, that's my job. I still worry about payroll. As a matter of fact, it's my primary job as the CEO is to worry about payroll. Do we have enough money to operate? Do I have a plan in place? Do I have raised enough capital to make sure that we get to that plan? The ownership component of this, I have investors. I've got an early stage founder. I answer to them as the board of directors. They have to approve my overall plan, but they're not in the day-to-day making sure that we make payroll. That's my job. And they don't want to do that.
Yeah, so the owner role has evolved, right?
Yeah. So, all right. So I think that we're beating this horse dead. I want to get back to
you're right.
Which is like, what are those stages? And when you get to a place, when you start to evolve. So let's say that you're doing a lot of the work, you're wearing a lot of the hats. That's that classic 3 or 4 person startup. And then suddenly you get to 5, 6, 7, 8 people, maybe 10 people, and your job changes. How? What does that job change into?
I think there's 2 pressures, right? There's what the business needs, and then there's what you need, right? So what I know about CEOs who get into roles that do not align with who they are as individuals, where they don't feel like they can be successful, blah, 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 is that the energy driving the business forward really goes away. And they're holding the company up by being involved in things that they shouldn't be doing. So there's like what does the business need, and then there's what does the CEO as a human being need to be able to be re-energized and to also be able to feel like they're really being successful, because the worst thing for a business is an owner that's anxious and doesn't feel like they're contributing, right? Because then they start to meddle and they start to get involved
They
in all
break
things.
things.
Yeah, they break things. Yeah.
Anthony, what do you think? So 10 people, you now are at 10 people. How does your job change?
At 10, so it's gradual, right? So when you're solopreneur or there's two of you, you're both working on it. You're kind of tag teaming. You're pair programming, right? The business. The next person that you bring on, you start to have to delegate. So once you get to 4 or 5 people, collaboration starts turning to delegation. And that, I think that does hit a critical mass at 10 employees, because now you really have to be conscious about who does what. But there's still an advantage with 10, that it is not hard to keep in your brain what everybody's doing and where everybody's at and what everybody has promised. Like, you don't need a system to manage 10 employees. It's manageable just cognitively.
So
that
I think
changes
what
at
we're
20.
talking about. Yeah, I think so. At this stage, so we'll talk about the first step, and let's assume
Yeah.
now that I want to do this, Stephanie. So let's assume that I want to develop the skills and abilities as the founder to be the leader that my company needs for this 10 and then 20 people, and maybe beyond. What you're talking about is you can get by with leadership skills and energy and enthusiasm and passion up until the time when you actually have to start developing management skills. And
Yes.
delegation is a management skill. There are other skills that you need to start developing at that stage. Stephanie, what are some of the other skills that you think you need right about that 10 people?
To let go, right? To trust and let go. And then when this is what I like, the first step that we always take is understanding who you are as a human being first, right? So where can we best leverage you, and where does that align with what the business really needs, and where can we get you into that really, like, that charging forward type energy? And I would say that the first person you need is a right hand, right? You need a chief of staff, you need the role that I often play with my clients is this, like, shadow CEO. I basically represent them with the team, and the team now, works with me, and I hold the strategy, and I hold the implementation of that strategy, and that frees the CEO up to go and charge forward with the next phase of growth in the business. So that's the thing I see happen most often. But if you're going to play that role as the CEO, then the thing that you need to be able to do is to tap into like a really, really intricate understanding of the market that you're serving, and who you're serving, and who's going to be paying you money, and where you can see that going, and what they need, and become very, very intimately familiar with them as well as you, and start to find these new opportunities for the business, because that's where a visionary leader is going to go. Now, there are lots of CEOs who come into their business because they're technically good. They're never going to be that visionary CEO. So if they're evolving, then their evolution is around their evolution should be aligned with what they bring to the table. So these are the CEOs that get tucked into new innovation and new product development or something like that. So I don't even want to call it a CEO role, because just like you, Chris, there was probably a misalignment with the whoever was leading the business that you're in, and you're a better fit to be CEO role. So I want to decouple CEO with founder, right? So founder can become lots of different things, and they should become whatever is super aligned with where they can add the most value and where they can really drive the business forward. And that means that you may step out of the CEO role and tuck into something that's far more appropriate for you, that's going to drive things forward. And I do think that decoupling from the owner, you are an owner of the business, right? Ownership for me is like, not the most important thing because that can be distributed over lots of different people, right? Ownership is a bit passive. It's the operator leader role that I think is different.
Mm.
So what
I-
I'm hearing, and I think this is a good trajectory, which is at this first step, but we haven't gotten to the second step, but it requires you to build skills and it requires you to build self-awareness. I think that's what you're saying, Steph.
Weird. We've never talked about that before.
Yeah, we've never talked about this in the show.
No.
And so self-awareness being one of those key things. I want to ask a tough question, Anthony. As you are a solo founder or you have 2 to 3 employees, there's not a lot of people that are around you telling you the truth. How do you develop those self-awareness skills in an environment that is uniquely designed for you not to have those self-awareness skills, to sort of limit yourself?
Oh, I don't. I'm married with 2 daughters. I have no problem finding people to tell me what I'm doing.
That is a good point.
No, but as an entrepreneur, you make a really good point. I don't think so. A couple things I'm gonna touch on there. I don't think employees tell you what you need to hear either. For the most part,
they have a vested interest, right?
They have a vested interest, and frankly, and maybe by design, they want to please you. Your career potentially is in their hands, or their career is in your hands, and yours is in theirs, right? But so I do think to get people to tell you what you want, tell you what you need to hear. You only get that from other founders. You need to get involved. You need to get involved with other founders. You need other people that are true peers that have no vested interest in your organization or what you're doing. They just want to see you win, and are willing to tell you the hard truths and confront you with the hard truths. They almost enjoy it as their hobby. There's also something else that occurred to me, Chris, and I'll touch on this briefly, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because I want it teased out. This move from 4 to 10 employees, when you're really small, you don't have to worry about team dynamics. When you hit 10, you do. You have conflicting personalities. You have potentially people jockeying for position. You have to think in things rather than you and your employee relationship, but also how your employees are getting along. Like, how does Brad and Lisa, how are they going to mesh with one another? Which is usually not something you need to worry about when you're super small.
Brad is always a problem. I mean, it's the drinking on the job, and it's the,
I mean, I think we've pretty much solved it. We just bring a puppy in. That's team culture right there. That's how you build strong culture. I don't know that there is a single answer to this, because I think it really does revolve around what sort of leader you are and your ability to build a team. That is hard. It's also a skill. And so
yes.
I think there's a lot of people that believe that there is this thing called charisma or leadership, and those things just come natural to some people. Team building is a skill, and there are all kinds of things that you can do to learn to be a better team builder, just like you can learn to be a better financial manager, just to learn a better hire,
I'm gonna challenge you on that, Chris. Naturally, the problem leaders that I've always run into in my life are the ones that think they're natural leaders. those are the issue people, right?
Well, I think that there's an undercurrent to everything that we're talking about, which is in the academic world, we call it growth mindset. And growth mindset is this idea that you are constantly trying to grow and improve as a person. As a founder, you have to have a particular, and as an operator too, you have to have a particular level of arrogance, like real live arrogance, right? You have to be cocky. You have to be confident in your decisions. Otherwise, nobody's going to follow you. At the same time, if you come into the room thinking you have the answers to every question, so you don't need to develop skills, you're probably going to kind of struggle, I think. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, it has. And oh, Stephanie's back. There you are. You okay, Steph?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. You warned us before we started that you.
No. This was something. Somebody was just at my door, and I'm like,
Okay.
7:30 in the morning. Why are you at my door?
So Chris, I think you're absolutely right. And the question now becomes, all right. So there's these skills that you need to develop when going from 10 to from when you hit that 10 employee mark. What is the next? So I have an opinion on this. I'm curious from you two. What is the kind of the next benchmark in how your leadership style needs to change if you're attempting to grow, right? So
because I'm going to do something completely. I'm going to go completely off our script here because our speed round
we have a
questions
script
anyway. And so I'm going to ask you guys the speed round questions. I'm going to ask you something a little bit different. What I'm going to ask you is, what is the single most important thing that you can build? What skill you can build at each stage of a company as you build out? So before I do, my question, it's rhetorical. Are you ready for the speed round? Okay, so here's the rules for this speed round. I'm going to say a size of company, and each of you get only one. It's got to be speedy. About what is the most important skill that you need to be an effective CEO at that stage. Again, we're saying about being a CEO. All right, 0 to 10 employees. What is the single most important skill that you need, Stephanie?
Listening.
Sales.
From 10 to 50 employees, what is the single most important skill that you need? Stephanie.
Self-awareness.
Sales.
Anthony. You can't just say sales every time. All right. From 50 to 100 employees, right? So now we're a real company, probably getting into middle management road. What is the single most important skill that you need, Stephanie?
Stepping away.
Ooh, interesting. Taking a vacation. Anthony.
You need to learn how to be a leader of leaders.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Growing leaders.
Last one, you now run the Enterprise. I always love that. That's also the Starship Enterprise. It's a big ship, right? You're running this.
You're a Captain Kirk.
You're a Captain. What is the single most important skill that you need, Stephanie?
Drinking.
That's a good one, Anthony.
I think it's public. You need to have good PR skills. You need to have public awareness.
Self-awareness.
I think that's
like I would say self-awareness for every single one. Self-awareness. Honestly, like we keep coming back to this, right? Like it's so critically important because you knowing what role you need to take on is so much about knowing yourself and where your blind spots are and where your energy is best and where you can evolve into.
Yeah, I agree, but I have a problem with self-awareness. I'm starting to develop this like allergic reaction to the self-awareness skill.
That has nothing to do with it. That's you.
Yeah, maybe, but who doesn't think they're self-aware? Like it's this generic advice. It's this generic advice that is not, I don't feel as actionable. Like I think I'm self-aware. I'm also probably delusional. Right. So I don't really know if I'm self-aware or not. How do you know? And it is one of those things that if you ask anyone, are you self-aware? What's their answer going to be?
Do you know what I did? I had my latest client, my first interview with him. I said on a scale of like, because he was going through the CEO evolution program. And I said, on a scale of 1, like he's a $10 million business, blah, blah, blah. He's been a founder. He's, in his 50s. I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you know yourself? He says 6. I'm like, well, let's start there because that's the biggest problem is that you are confused and you're leading your business in 5 different directions.
That answer indicates that he's actually highly self-aware, right? Only a person that's very self-aware would answer that question as a 6. People that are delusional are going to answer it a 10.
But the point is that you're asking me, what do I think that people need? and
Yeah.
it's self-awareness. I'm not asking you whether they think they're self-aware. I'm
That's
telling you that that's what they need, right?
That's fair.
I think it's just this really, and the reason why we keep coming back to it is because it's underlying so many of the fundamental problems that we see when we deal with founders and that we've experienced ourselves. I was the guy that broke my previous company. I was the guy that got us to $1.5 million in sales. I was also the guy that kept us from getting to 3 because I kept breaking stuff.
Yeah.
I got bored being an operator of a company and just doing the same thing again and again. I started to try stuff because I had that founder mentality. We are in this incredibly unique environment whereby people are not going to be honest with you. They're not. And you have to figure out a way to try to get some level of people to tell you exactly what it is that you do well and you don't. I think that that's incredibly hard. We keep coming back to it, Anthony.
Yeah.
Again and again, it's like finding people that you can actually trust, hiring a coach.
Personal board of directors, right?
Yeah. A personal board of directors, like something you can do, or just have a wife and 2 daughters, really, like Anthony. It's his personal board of directors.
Yeah, I'm more self-aware than I want to be. Let's put it that way.
I believe that for like several different reasons.
Yeah. And at the same time, the thing you have to balance is this level of confidence to know that you still are trying to grow, but yet if you don't show up with confidence in your own ability to make good decisions, people will not follow and you will fail. It's a absolutely incredibly difficult trap that we find ourselves in, I think.
And the biggest thing is that when you feel like your business is struggling, you try to do things. And sometimes that's the opposite of what you need to do. Like you need to step out of the way and put people in place who can do the things and get you in a position where you can actually help the business, right? And so this anxiety, and which is all the time, by the way, the anxiety pushes people back into, operator mode and like doing mode. And that's what keeps these businesses in these cycles of being unable to grow.
And there's constant pressure of being able to make payroll.
That's right.
I think that one of the mistakes that I made at my last company was I fell in love with my employees. And what I mean by that is I just loved our team. It's such a such a great team that not that way, Stephanie. Jesus.
It's always a bad idea.
But there were times I should have started to turn some staff over. There were times it was probably time for me to take a step back with my staff, retrench, figure out ways to get things off of my plate, hire people with additional skills. But I didn't want to do that because I really loved the team dynamics that we had built.
I want to cover this. Maybe this is what we talk about because we have an episode on Thursday. I would love to dive deep on that topic alone. Because I see this a lot with founders not being able to fire the people that they like. Let's talk about that. So that's what we're gonna cover on our next episode. That I think is a full episode. Like, how do you let go of when I guess it's like when founder loyalty to his employees or customers hurts. I think you pulled up something, Chris, that we really need to talk about.
Yeah,
boy, I've got some pain and suffering on that one. All right, Deep Dive Resources. What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith. I've not read that one, but the all-time management classic called High Output Management. Andy Grove has not come across our list, at least I've had. Excellent book. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. Great conversation. What we're going to do today, Stephanie, since this is your episode, it's your plug. Plug yourself. Where can we find out about you? Where can we find out about your services? I want to learn more from Stephanie Hayes. Where do I go?
So I am just launching a new program called CEO Evolution. And this is it's to address this specific need of these founders who have got themselves real stuck. And they think what they're trying to solve is a business growth problem, but what they actually need to solve is their role, because they're just sitting in circles. So this is a new program that I've launched where we work first with you and understanding who you are as a business owner, as a human being, as an individual, what you're after. And then not you. You're impossible.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we look at how that impacts the business, and then eventually we're making a decision around what the business needs and what your role needs to evolve to, et cetera, et cetera. So you can find me on LinkedIn at Stephanie Hayes and stephaniehayes.biz. I haven't even put the sales page up for this program yet, but it is launched and ready to go. So
I think it's so important. As every time I try to think through this, I just don't know. I think that Anthony, you and I have gotten there by epic, painful, terrible failure along the way. I think anything you can do to avoid that, I think would be really, really valuable.
It was just an opportunity that evolved because it's just the thing I kept seeing over and over and over again, that, this desire to fix a business is really about fixing the CEO's role. So
yeah, it always comes back to leadership. I think we're all going to have a lot of great stories for our next episode about about examples of leaders not letting their team get out of the way, not knowing when to get not themselves out of the way, but they're in the way because they're not getting the people in the way out of the way.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
I love it. Anthony, you want to get us out of here?
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening again. Please be sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect and leave reviews for us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify channels. You, our listeners, are the pioneer of economic prosperity. And we're listeners, Chris, not you. Now, listeners, yeah. They're the pioneers of economic prosperity, and we're just grateful to be there along the way with you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.